recite the Fatiha, please? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين، أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم إلى قيامة يوم الدين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، يا غريب كربلاء. رزقنا الله في الدنيا زيارتكم وشفاعتكم في الدنيا وفي القبر وفي الآخرة. أما بعد، يقول الله في محكم كتابه وقرآنه المجيد وقوله الحق: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وبشر الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات أن لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار، كلما رزقوا منها من ثمرة رزقا قالوا هذا الذي رزقنا من قبل، وأتوا به متشابها، ولهم فيها أزواج مطهرة وهم فيها خالدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم، وأفلح من يصلي على محمد وآل محمد. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our discussions have reached their 9th night, our penultimate night. Inshallah, tomorrow will be our final lecture of this series. Tonight, we will be continuing after a long, long journey. We started all the way from death. I mean, can you imagine if it took this long for just the lecture series to get to Jannah and Jahannam? Once we die, how long the actual time will take to play out, right? But maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow and how time gets a little bit warped. Nevertheless, we went through death, we examined Barzakh, we examined Yawm al-Qiyamah, at least parts of it. And then yesterday we started to talk about where exactly paradise and hell are. Now that we know where they are, let's go into the fun discussion. What are they like? We'll start off our discussion with a little bit of the scary stuff, and then we'll end with the best stuff. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, with regards to hellfire, a lot of things in the Quran that are sometimes meant to scare us just so that we make sure that we never get there. One of the best examples of that is in Surah Al-Rahman, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. If you got scared from the discussion of hell, and that scared you into being an obedient, watchful servant of Allah, then you get 2 Jannahs. And we already mentioned yesterday that Jannah is the entire breadth of existence. It's all of dunya, the sab'a samawat, and even above. And we mentioned that hell is the exact same thing, and we've already explained how both of them coexist and neither one interferes with the other. I'm not going to go into really any of the Sunday school stuff of, like, okay, there's going to be this torture weapon, there's going to be that painful adab, there's going to be this torture and that torture. No, you guys have already read enough of that, and you can find those in our literature. My goal, inshallah, for this lecture series is to at least provide that outline so that when you further read or hear other majalis or courses or workshops or whatever, if you pick up these resources, you know where exactly they can kind of fit in. And you have more of an idea of how these things are to be interpreted. In previous nights, for example, we looked at what exactly does it mean to be of Ashab al-Yamin, Ashab al-Shimal, with regards to the books of deeds. We looked at, for example, what exactly are the scales and what is the wazan, right? So these things have more of a metaphorical meaning that our imams have explained to us. Tonight, what I want to go into for hellfire is that concept where we are disconnected from Allah, or at least distanced from Allah Ta'ala. And the further into hell that people go, the more veils there are. As these veils become realities in that realm, they start to manifest things that we used to do over here. So one of the things, and I won't take too much time on hell, I want to give more time to paradise. One of the things that we have to keep in mind with regards to hellfire is that there is also psychological torture. It's not just physical torture, there's also psychological torture. How so? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you read in the Quran, it seems that there are times where people of hellfire, they can actually escape hellfire. Well, how do you escape hellfire? Unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built-in secret doorways for people to discover in hellfire. Right? And there, of course, is the concept of veils, and that this is, things that people are hidden behind, etc., etc. So even over here, there is the concept of doors, and we'll come back to the door analogy when we get to the a'rāf. Some of these doors might be false passageways, they might be fake doors, and people waste their time trying to open these doors only for them to lose hope, right? Losing hope is something that we experience here in dunya. And it's only here in dunya where there are imperfections or flaws, where there is a lack of truth, where falsehood can come in the shape of a mirage, it can come in as an illusion, and therefore you have these things that turn out to be lies. Hellfire is filled with these types of booby traps, lies, tricks, traps to fall into, right? Not just the usual things that we hear of, the ma and hamim, the boiling water, or the iron mallets. It's not just that. There's also a lot of false images, there's a lot of mirages over there and illusions. And it seems that some of them, after a lot of false hope, they try again. Maybe those same doors work, maybe another time they don't work, maybe they find another door that does work. Allahu A'lam. They find one of these doors that work, and they finally try to get out of hell. And what does the Quran say? As soon as they try to do that, that the keepers of hellfire will go and grab them, give them a good beating, and then throw them back into hell. Just to go and kill their morale even more. This is on top of course, the physical beatings, the physical torture, the tree of Zaqqum, all of these things that we've already heard from, thank you so much Sunday school and Saturday school teachers for giving me nightmares that I will never recover from, right? All of these things are still there, but there's more to these. Think of it this way, we've already established in this lecture series that dunya is that realm of multiplicity. There are veils over here which make us think that all these things that we see around us, our clothes, this camera, the carpets, all of these things, they are different realities. And we address this in the deconstruction and disruption lecture. Think about it this way. Dunya has already got so much multiplicity and so many distractions. hellfire just keeps on adding more and more and more onto that. If it was hard already to realize the truth in dunya, it's going to be so much harder for those people who are trying to purify themselves to rid themselves of those distractions in hellfire. And obviously some of those distractions are the pain that they keep on being dealt with in hellfire. How many of you have read the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that every single time that their skin burns away, we'll replace it with another one, right? That is a huge thing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say. Now, I don't know about you, but if something even small happens, like a hangnail, that can sometimes, I've seen it, reduce people to tears because of, a little bit of skin that was pulled off and now it's raw and exposed. Yeah, okay, if that hurts, then use that as an example in your day-to-day life to say, okay, well, you're so weak that you can't even handle this. Come back now to Allah so that you enter that realm, paradise, which we'll come to towards the end of our majlis tonight, where there is no pain, there's no deception, there's nothing to worry about. There's only, as we'll see tonight, salam. There's only peace. There's no betrayal. So now, if hellfire has all of these veils and it has psychological torture, is there anything that we really, really need to worry about? In our day-to-day lives, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has clearly said, if you have this trait, we've talked here and there in the past few nights about making sure that those second natures that we develop are cleaned and slowly we are working on them. Is there a certain trait that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you have that, your home is naturally going to be in hellfire? Yes. What is that trait or that second nature? It's kibr, it's pride. That singular trait, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, no one is allowed to have that kibriya, that pride, save me. You're allowed to be happy that Allah has given you a ni'mah, but to become boastful, to start bragging, to become prideful, this is the first step down the exact same route that many tyrants and despots and dictators have gone down. And probably the worst of them, the likes of Yazid, Fir'aun, Muawiyah, right? We'll stick with Fir'aun because he's actually quoted in the Quran as saying things like, Ana rabbukum al-a'la. I am your most high master, right? I do not know any ilah ghayri. I know in Surah Al-Ghafir, or also in Surah Al-Qasas, he also says, I do not know of any other God besides myself for you. Called himself God. How do you get to that level where you see yourself as a master over other human beings? Or even more than that, God, unless you've gone down that path of pride, unless it's become your second nature. Actually, he calls himself three things. He says, أَلَيْسَ لِي مُلْكُ مِصْرَ. He says, for example, I do not know any other God besides myself for you. And in Surah Al-Nazi'at, he says, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. Three different traits. And Fir'aun, as probably most of us know, is the biggest bad guy there is in the Quran. Not in real life. I mean, there's much people who came later, even after him, that were worse. But in the Quran, at least, he is the worst of the worst. He calls himself King, Master, and God. Come to Surah Al-Nas. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ مَلِكٍ نَّاسِ إِلَهٍ نَّاسِ. Those same three exact qualities that Fir'aun called himself, who ends up in the worst parts of Jahannam, right? In Surah Al-Ghafir it says, وَيَوْمَ يَقُومُ السَّاعَةُ, that Fir'aun and his ilk, his type of people, will be handed over to the worst types of adab, ashaddul adab. Why is it the ashaddul adab? Let's see what the disease is that's plaguing Fir'aun. Calls himself king over everybody else. Okay. Then on top of that, he calls himself Rabb al-Nas. On top of that, he calls himself Ilah al-Nas. The more and more that you go down this journey, and eventually it ends up with you thinking of yourself as a God, the farther into hell, the more distance away from Allah in reality you are. You're so deluded, you think you are God yourself. And so we'll conclude tonight's discussion on hell and move on to the next destination that people can go to with this. That there is something called wail in hell. Many of you have probably read the surah, وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ, right? Or for example, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ, right? Wail is a place in hell, according to some hadith, that is a huge canyon, it is a chasm, that hellfire itself starts saying, أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ, or أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ that part of hellfire. It's that bad. Some rawayat have said that it's so bad that it keeps its metaphorical breath, kind of keeps its breath held, and it asks Allah for permission, can I finally exhale? Allah says, yeah, sure. It exhales, and what does it end up doing? That exhale of that worst part of hell, wail, ends up burning the whole rest of Jahannam. Now it can't get past the veils that are outside of Jahannam, but it burns everything and everyone in Jahannam. It's that bad. Inside wail, at the bottom of this canyon, Sunni and Shīʿā hadith have talked about this wail, that the people at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallu alayhi wa sallam. Sunni and Shīʿā hadith have said about this wail, this canyon, that some people were able to hear, their ears were opened up to the sounds of the other world. And they hear a sound. They ask Rasulullah, what was that sound? He said, you heard it too? He said, yeah. He says, that sound was a huge boulder that finally hit the bottom of that canyon called Wail, and it was dropped off of the cliff at the edge of Wail 70 years ago. So it was just falling for 70 years, and now finally hit the bottom. What's at the bottom of that Wail? We have more hadith in our Shīʿā literature that the Imams tell us about. What exactly do we find out at the end of that canyon? We find the worst of the worst people. And amongst the worst of the worst people, there is a box. Inside this box, and of course box is just metaphorical, right? It's talking about a further hijab, further distancing people away from Allah, further keeping them away from the reality. Inside this box are the worst of the worst people. But inside this box, there's a coffin. It's called the tabut. This is very well known amongst the ulama. Maybe some of you guys don't know about it. Allow me to enlighten you. Inside this tabut, you guys know what a coffin is, right? When you guys go to the janazah, you know that thing that the body is in? That coffin, this is where the 12 worst people in all of existence, in all of history, will be. Who are these 12 people? Rasulullah ﷺ says 6 from the previous nations and 6 from the final nations. Who are the 6 from the previous nations? We see Qabil is in there. Qabil, the one who murdered his brother, the first murderer, the one who, because of him, murder became a norm amongst humanity. He's in there. So Qabil. Then we have Nimrud, the king at the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the one who called himself God. Number 3, we have Fir'aun, the Fir'aun of the time of Musa, not just any Fir'aun. And there are a lot of pharaohs. You're like, okay, well, which Pharaoh? The one in the Quran, the one who fought against Musa alayhi salam, Fir'aun. Then, on top of that, we have someone else in the story of Musa by the name of As-Samiri. Many of you might have read the Quran. As-Samiri is the one who makes the golden calf when Musa goes for 40 days to the mountain. As-Samiri, the one who deluded the people of Bani Israel into worshipping the calf, he will also be in that tabut. How many people do we have so far? 4. Number 5 and 6 are identities. The one who turned Bani Israel into Jews, the one who changed Islam into Judaism, the first one who corrupted the prophetic message into Judaism, and the Jew who corrupted the Islamic message of Jesus and turned it into Christianity. How many do we have so far? 6. So 6 from the previous nations, those people are taken care of. I won't mention all of the names for the people who are from the latter generations, because this will be online. But who are the 6 from the latter generations, the more recent generations? From the latter generations, we have number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Number 4 is Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan. Number 5 is the person who first instigated and made the movement of the Khawarij and told them, Ali is a kafir, Muawiyah is a kafir. Let's go to war with Ali. Let's secede from both of them. And number 6, who's number 6, brothers and sisters? Any ideas? I'm seeing a lot of people say Yazid. Sisters, anybody for number 6? Who do you want to go and put in there in the final, circle of hell? In Dante's language. I can't hear you guys. I'm just going to move on. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You can't blame me when they're whispering over there. I'm going over here. So the 6th and final person from these latter generations is Ibn Muljid, the killer of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. These are the 6 from the final generations of humanity. These are the 12 who will be in the lowest stage, in the lowest place that can possibly exist in hellfire. They will be there, khalidina fiha, forever and ever. Now, is there any way for even these people who are at the bottom of hell to come out? Of course. Many of you said the name Yazid. Why not Yazid? Why Muawiyah? See, Muawiyah is actually, he has a brain in his head. He's a little bit, cunning. When he goes and sets his mind to something, he can actually fool a lot of people. How many of you have heard of people, even till today, and this is the sad reality, that there are people who claim to be Muslims, and yet they say, radiyallahu anhu, after the name of Muawiyah. We can understand, okay, fine, if you have love towards maybe some of your other companions or whatnot, okay, Muawiyah, are you that, brainwashed? That you can't even see that he was basically the spawn of Satan? And yet, unfortunately, no. He has deluded people up until today. The Umayyad machine still churns out its propaganda. Even without the payroll of the Umayyads, it's still going. Muawiyah pretended to be a Muslim on the outside, and he was a hypocrite. Yazid was just a bumbling buffoon, right? He was outwards exactly what he was inwards. Everybody hated him. Everybody saw that he was, completely off of Sirat al-Mustaqim. There was no way to justify Yazid. Unless you come even to some people today who are like, well, you don't know what's in his heart. Okay, take his heart, right? Even after you go and wash his heart a billion times and maybe it'll become pure, go and put that part in Jannah, the rest of it can go to Jannah, right? But no, Muawiyah had a much more cunning game. And so he was actually a more dangerous threat against Islam. He was someone who deserved to be put in the tabut according to the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. This is not something that, by the way, I'm coming over here and taking up. These are from our hadith. These are all available readily to be read. Yes? Now, where is Yazid then? Yazid is most likely within that outer box, not inside the inner box. The 12 who are in that inner box is not amongst them. But he's obviously on the outside. And many of the people who also deluded and side-railed Islam in those early days, they will most likely also be over there as well, because they corrupted the pure teachings of the heavenly message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I also like to request the brothers and the sisters, I know the sisters are kind of already starting to, bunch up together, but if you could already start to make more room, because now is around that time after Maghrib and everything that more people will start to come in. So please come forward, and for the sisters, move a little bit more towards the back. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now for those of you who have seen the titles of these lectures, you know that there's a third place that people can go to. And I've mentioned this even in the Q&As and the discussions in the previous nights. Most people are aware, even outside of Islam, that there's something called paradise and there's something called hell. In our belief system, in the Quran, there is a third place where people can go eternally as well. And it has a name. Actually, there's an entire surah named after it. The 7th surah of the Quran, brothers and sisters, is named Surah Al-A'rāf. The A'rāf have two different realities in the ayat of the Quran. The first one is the heights. The second one are the lower hills of the A'rāf. Two very, very different places, and we'll go through both of them. But I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page with me when I say that there are two different meanings, even in the Quran, when we come to the word A'rāf. And there are many different hadith when it comes to the A'rāf from the Ahlul Bayt, and they need to be divided into these categories. So category number one of the A'rāf is the people who were not so, they were good, but not good enough to get into Jannah. As well as in the same area, the people who are bad, but not bad enough to go into Jannah. Those people will be in the middle. They will be in the A'rāf. The A'rāf, what can we say about these, at least this first category of the A'rāf, the lower levels of the A'rāf? Here, brothers and sisters, Surah Al-A'rāf itself, as well as the 57th surah, Surah Al-Hadid, describe a hijab, and Surah Al-Hadid will call it a wall. Now I know over here in Texas, especially in the past presidency, you guys know a lot about walls. But over here, when the Quran talks about a wall, we're talking about something else. This is a wall between believers and people who pretended to be believers. People who were believers only in name. People who were believers only in name, we've mentioned them a little bit here and there in between in our majalis. They were the people who, for example, they went to ziyarah every single year, but then when it came to, for example, giving the mahar of their wife, they never gave the mahar. When it came to eating halal, they were always on top of everything, but when it came time to go and give their sisters part of the inheritance which their parents left, they said, nah, you can't prove it, that they left anything. And they just hoard all of the wealth to themselves. These are the kinds of people who maybe are on time with their prayers, but they'll leave one wife, for example, in England, and then they'll have another wife in Pakistan, or in India, or in Dubai, or wherever, and maybe they have a girlfriend in China. I've heard of these kinds of situations. I mean, you think that the Molanas were completely closed up with our books, we don't know anything that's going on in the world, but no, we know what's happening. Sometimes a little too well. And these kinds of people who outwardly claim to be Muslim, people who we saw all the time at Dua Qur'an, all the time at Jumu'ah prayers, all the time in the majalis. See, every Shīʿā will come out. You're not a Shīʿā if you don't come on the 19th of Ramadan, on the 21st of Ramadan, and the 10th of Muḥarram. If you don't come on those, what kind of Shīʿā are you? It's the true Shīʿā who come from night 1 of Muḥarram. Come from night 1 of Shahr Ramadan, when nobody else is coming. When everybody else is too filled up with their samosas and their oily foods, and they're like, I'll just go and catch the lectures online. Okay? Those kinds of people, they have lower standards for themselves, let's say. Inshallah, they get higher standards. Ameen. But with regards to the A'rāf over here, who will people see on the other side of that wall? And I'll read the ayat to you as well. We'll see people who fooled themselves into thinking that, no, I'm not doing anything haram. So what if I go to the bar? I'm not drinking any alcohol. Many of you don't know, I'm not a lecturer full-time, right? I have a 9-to-5 job, right, before this. When I was in my 9-to-5 job, my Muslim boss and family would go and say, no, it's just for, team building. It's okay, just go, and just be with them, and, it's okay, they're Muslim too, right? Go towards the bar, they have, you know, tuna sandwiches, and you can just have a glass of water. Here, I remembered something that Ayatollah Khomeini went and said. He said, the burden of Islam is too much on my shoulders. It was too heavy for me to get up. Right? When they asked him why didn't he stand up when the Shah entered the room and everybody else stood up, he said, you know, the weight of Islam was too heavy on my shoulders for me to just, like, you know, stand up for the likes of this person, right? Similarly, someone like me who sits on the minbar of Imam Hussein, how would you guys see it if I went ever into a bar? Or if I went into a club? It's not right. It's not the right place for me to be seen, right? It just doesn't mesh with my personality. And yet there were many people who fooled themselves, or I shouldn't even say fooled themselves, Shaitan fooled them, into thinking, no, you're not doing anything haram by going into the bars. You're not doing anything wrong by going into the clubs. All you have to do is just go and order a Sprite. All you have to do is just order a Diet Pepsi. You're still not doing anything haram, right? Yeah, but I've read the Quran and I know where those people end up on the Day of Judgment. Now, as we've been highlighting, brothers and sisters, it's never too late to go and do tawbah. But tawbah means that you stop doing that thing that you were, you know, doing wrong in the first place. Istighfar is like, okay, yeah, I did it again. Tawbah means, khalas, I'm done. No more of this kind of double-sided lifestyle or two-faced lifestyle. No more going to the bar and thinking, okay, it's all right. Allah understands. I have to go and make a living for myself as well. Otherwise, I'll never get a promotion. These kinds of promotions, if you think that these people are your providers in life, you haven't understood La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, where Allah is your true giver in life. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let's have a louder second salawat in the love of Fatima az-Zahra. What are the other things that Allah Ta'ala tells us? That the people who are stuck in a'rāf get stuck there for. We already said that people who fool themselves into thinking that, oh, I'm not going to get into trouble if I just go to, you know, the types of places that everybody else goes. I mean, I don't have to be that religious, right? Seems like maybe we do. Other things that Allah Ta'ala says is, for example, you waited you waited so much before you just took that step towards doing what you knew Allah wanted you to do. Yeah? And here I'll be very blunt, brothers and sisters. There are many people who think that they can get away with putting off Hajj and saying, let me just live my life. Let me go and have fun. Hajj will go and take care of all of my deeds, big or small. I'll just go when I'm 70 or 80 years old, and I'll go then. Yeah, but how do you know you're going to live that long? How do you know you're going to live 5 more minutes? You have the chance to go this past Hajj. Right now is Muḥarram. The previous month was Dhul Hijjah. You could have gone. I'm of course talking to those people who are healthy and rich enough to go. Not those people who are not even capable of going. But if you didn't go, what do you think is going to happen to you on the Day of Judgment? We'll talk about us. You just kept waiting, said, okay, inshallah, one day, I know it's wajib. For some people, this might be Hajj. For some people, this might be qadha prayers. And like I said, I have to be blunt. The purpose of this minbar is to revolutionize us and to talk about what is deficient in our day-to-day lives. Maybe we are good with prayers. Maybe we're not going to skip out on Hajj, even though, like I've been saying, it's a lot of money. You have to blast a money cannon at the Saudis, like $60,000 or something like that, for a family to go and perform their Hajj. What else? For some of our sisters, maybe it's hijab. Hijab is wajib, but some people might put it off until a later date. You don't know if you'll have a later date. And the Quran says, not hellfire, but the a'rāf, this middle, you know, limbo place for those who just waited and waited and waited and waited. You just kept on waiting, even though you knew that this was wajib, even though you knew that this was something that Allah was asking from you. I'll ask for leadership to just turn the volume a little bit up because our Arabic brothers and sisters still haven't, learned that we have masjid in English going on this year. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So those people who waited around, didn't take the amr of hijab seriously, for the brothers, beard, right? The beard is also something that is wajib, right? If you can grow it. And I shouldn't say wajib, let me take that back. It's not wajib, it's haram to shave it off completely. And here I'll just tell you, go and look into your marjas, risala, to go and see what the hukm is, how much of a beard is still considered a beard, but is it halal to go and be clean shaven? Only if you're like, prepubescent, basically. Everybody else, however much of a beard you can have, it's not something that's in your hands anymore. Allah wants it, you have to have it. The other thing, what else does the believer on the other side of this wall say to those who were just waiting, who get trapped on the other side of that veil, on the other side of that hijab? He says you were skeptical. You knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted this. You're like, yeah, but does he really want this? And here's where I see it the most. When we go and tell people who are older, you guys are all very young, so if I go and tell you guys, I've even told some of you guys, hey, this is, maybe something that I've caught, might have invalidated your prayer, right? But for the older generation who have been praying 30, 40, 50 years this way, if I go and tell them your wudu might have a shortcoming, you might have a deficiency, you might need to go and wudu, of course, is necessary in order for a proper salah to be there. When I go and tell them that, hey, your wudu might need to have been redone, if you were doing it this way for all your 30 years, then I'm sorry, but you might have to go and redo it. And here comes the skepticism. What's the skepticism? How is that fair? I did what I was supposed to do. Allah wanted me to go and pray. I did it the right way. At least I thought I did it the right way. I did wudu, I prayed, I didn't have any shortcoming. Now you're telling me that there was something all along that I was missing? Right? Now if I go and ask any of you about someone who does wudu, and he doesn't do his wiping of the feet, he just stops at the head. Is that a complete wudu? Yes or no? No. And so if I go and tell that person, or any of you go and tell that person, hey, brother or sister, you got to do the right wudu before you go and pray. Otherwise, if you're not doing your feet, what are you going and praying? Like, what kind of wudu are you going and praying? But if I go and tell someone that, hey, part of washing your arm is also washing over here, this crinkly part that is hard to get wet. Or I have to go in between the fingers. Then the older generation, oh my God, why did you go and mention that? Now we're never going to let you go. I did what I was supposed to do. That Harry Potter quote, right? I waited 13 years of it in Azkaban, right? I did my prayers, 50 years of it, and now you're telling me I have to go and do qada of it? Skepticism. Skepticism in the laws of Allah is also something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in the Quran. Black and white, it's been there for 1400 years. It's not my fault if nobody wants to go and read the Quran. It's not my fault that if this is breaking news to you here in 2023. It was revealed to Rasulullah 1400 years ago. Skepticism, when it comes to, when you realize, oh my God, this was something that was there. How? Do I have to go and make up all of my prayers? Yeah, you might have to. Is Allah going to be merciful as long as He sees that at least I started? Yeah, He is going to be merciful. But if you never even started, you just said, nah, this is all a hoax. These Molanas, they're just trying to go and trick us. I don't have that kind of time. Okay, skepticism, right? It's there behind the wall of that lower a'rāf. What else, brothers and sisters, keeps people there in the a'rāf? False hopes. How many people have you personally talked to and you're like, no, this is in the Quran. Where in the Quran? Show me. No, I said in the Quran, find it. You guys know. People have these false hopes that if I just go and do this, or if I just go and call on this name of Allah, or if I just go and do this mustahab act and I don't do the wajib act, I'm taken care of. False hopes, brothers and sisters, are one of the culprits that Allah points out as being behind that a'rāf. Imam Ali alayhi salam himself says, don't think that your mustahab acts have any worth if you haven't fulfilled your wajibat. If you haven't been praying 5 times a day, Don't think that Salat al-Layl is going to go and take care of all of these things. Even if you read of all of the benefits of Salat al-Layl, yeah, those benefits exist. For the people who have at least the foundation, you can't build a building where there's no foundation. In today's material, physical world, can you even imagine someone building a second floor without a first floor and a foundation? Yes or no? No, right? And yet we're thinking that I can go and build the castles of paradise, and I don't even have my wajibat, I don't even have the things that Allah, the basic things that He asked me for, I don't have those in check. Again, brothers and sisters, are we talking about Jahannam or are we talking about the a'raf? We're just talking about the a'raf. But there are two parts of the a'raf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next ayah, بَاطِنُهُ رَحْمَةٌ وَمِنْ قِبْلِهِ الْعَذَابُ. The inner part of this wall, the inner part of this veil, you will receive breezes of paradises, breezes of rahmah. Whenever the doors of Jannah open up, you will receive those breezes of rahmah and it'll be feeling good. Brothers and sisters, there are many people who are trying to come in. Please stand up and come closer towards the front. I see a lot of room over here, room over here. Please come closer so that people can come in. Sisters as well, I know you're already kind of hunched up already, but if you have some room, please try to make room and move backwards. That way, if those people who are just coming in, they have some room to sit. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in ayah number 13 of Surah Al-Hadid, the 57th surah, فَضُرِبَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِسُورٍ لَهُ بَابٌ بَاطِنُهُ فِيهِ رَحْمَةٌ وَظَاهِرُهُ مِنْ قِبْلِهِ الْعَذَابُ. That this door, this wall that is constructed in between the a'raf, it will separate those who will feel breezes of rahmah on one side and breezes of adab on the other side. Every time that the doors of Jahannam open, they'll feel small bits of torture. Remember, we said, who are here in the a'raf? People who were good, but not good enough to get into paradise. People who were bad, but not bad enough to get into Jahannam. Everybody has a daraja that is catered, uniquely tailored towards that. So these people, what can we expect for these people who are in the a'raf? We see verses in the Quran as well as hadith to corroborate it that they will receive meals twice a day, morning and evening. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them food. But is that anything compared to you can have food anytime you want in Jannah? And we'll get to the food in Jannah and how it works with imagination and how it works with powers of imagination. We'll get to that very shortly. Is that any way to be treated? Where I'm only given food twice a day? What if I'm hungry in between? What if I get up in the middle of the night and I'm hungry? What, there's no midnight snacks? Well, apparently not for the people of A'raf. There's only 2 times a day where there's food. And the rest of the A'raf, honestly, brothers and sisters, it's pretty boring. There's nothing to do. There's no cool things. You don't even have TV over there. Astaghfirullah, right? There's nothing at all to do in the A'raf, at least in the lower levels of the A'raf. We'll come back towards the end of our lecture tonight when we come to the higher levels of the A'raf. But these lower levels of the A'raf, it's just boring. There's nothing to do. You're just kind of sitting around, hoping that maybe someone in Jannah throws something outside, like a piece of bread or I don't know. But you're just sitting there bored. You have nothing to do. Get your food, that's it. So then now let's come to the people of Jannah. And may Allah make us all amongst the people of Jannah, inshallah, ameen. What do we have when we come to the discussion of Jannah? I want to remind you yesterday where we talked about that ayah of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Prophet Yusuf comes into power as the Aziz of Misr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهُ حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. That he could go and choose wherever he wanted in Egypt to go and make that his residence. And we mentioned that doesn't just mean he can go and have a house wherever he wants. It means that every house in Egypt, every family in Egypt has to host him. If he comes knocking on their door, they have to go and make a room for him. They have to go and now he is at the hierarchy on top of that family. Whoever was head of the family is no longer head of the family. Whatever Yusuf alayhi salam says, goes. This is much more powerful than any dictator we've seen in history. And of course, Yusuf is not a dictator in the negative sense of the word, but he had all authority, even over the king in Egypt. And I mentioned yesterday in brief that we have that same exact type of power when it comes to paradise. I'll remind you yesterday in our discussion of where exactly is paradise, we mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Zumar that He gave us the earth. And on the earth over here, we can start to go and make paradise wherever we want. How does that work? First and foremost, of course, there is the potential of paradise. But now, based on myself, I can start generating paradise however good my deeds were. What does this mean? Here, I want to show you a little bit of reverb. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Here I want to start to take your attention towards, again, the veils. Once all the veils are gone, we'll come back to this, but at the a'rāf, the higher levels of the a'rāf, you have the divine names, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at least everybody who gets into paradise, they all are at least the divine manifestation of the name As-Salam. And we mentioned As-Salam. As-Salam literally means that God where there is no betrayal, there's no loneliness, there's no insecurity, there's no feeling of fear. Let's have all of the brothers and sisters please stand up once more, and for the sisters, move back a little bit and move forward. We have a lot of people who are sitting outside. If we can have them also come towards the gymnasium where everybody is, that way we can have, less distraction. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Please, for those of you who are on the wall, please come a little bit closer. And then brothers and sisters over there, please come and join us. So, that divine name of As-Salam now comes everywhere in Jannah. In Surah Yasin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Salamun qawlun min Rabbir Rahim. Salam, a word from your master who is all merciful. The angels call to us from every single door and they say, Salamun alaykum tibtum, fadkhuluha khalidin. Other places we have people saying to each other, Salamun alaykum. Salamun alaykum does not mean what it means over here. Where over here, some desi auntie can just go and say, Assalamu alaikum, right? Or over here, if you don't even like someone, you can just go and say, Assalamu alaikum. No. There, it actually means something. There, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives our words power. Wherever we meet our fellow brothers and sisters in faith, as soon as we meet them and we greet them with Salamu Alaikum, it starts generating paradise around us. Meaning, gardens will start to be formed, seating arrangements will be formed, castles will be formed, and we have hints of this in our hadith. According to one hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, sallu alayhi wa sallam. Sadiq alayhi salam says, indeed, Allah has placed a column. Now I want you to use your imagination over here, please. He says that Allah has made a column made completely out of ruby, and it is in Jannah. This column, on top of this column, there are 70,000 palaces. Inside each of these 70,000 palaces, there are 70,000 rooms and pavilions. You guys know what pavilions are? Pavilions are those cool sheds that you find in those state parks or whatever, and you can just go and have picnics over there and have a fun time, right? Or inshallah barbecues that I get invited to as well, and they're not too haram, right? Those pavilions, 70,000 of those rooms and pavilions inside each of these 70,000 palaces. Why did Allah create this pillar with these 70,000? Why? He created this specifically for those who in dunya were kind to each other and those who became friends with each other. On what basis? On what grounds? For the sake of Allah, fi sabilillah. If you become friends with someone or you be kind to someone simply on the basis of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have nothing more to gain or lose other than Allah. This is a high station. This is a true friendship, brothers and sisters. This is the kind of friendship that doesn't get destroyed because of this guy went and, said that my Pokemon was lame or something like that. No, this is something that, I'm picking a lot about Pokemon, right? So I'll pick on some of the Call of Duty people as well, right? These are the kinds of friends that you want to have in dunya. These are the quality friends. Those kinds of friends, they have special meeting rooms, special meeting areas, right? Everybody wants a meeting event hall, right? When you have a wedding, you want a wedding banquet hall. When you have a picnic, you want a picnic pavilion. When you have something cool that you look forward to here in dunya, you want to have a nice place. Well, these friends, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already catered to their friendship, having that already made in Jannah. But that doesn't mean that's the only place. Oh, if I want to go and reserve a room, right, I have to go over there. No. Your salamu alaykum also affects the inward and outward realities of that person who you said salamu alaykum to. It's a state of being that you are speaking into existence. What does that mean? It means that when I say salamu alaykum to the person in paradise, inwardly they feel, wow, that was a really nice salam, thank you. I feel so refreshed. I felt amazing. Wow, I really want to have a discussion with you. And outwardly, their entire circumstances become peaceful. There's nice drinks brought. The angels come and they say, hey, can we help you? Can we bring you anything? Right? And so, salamu alaykum, just from our words, we're able to go and generate things. And this isn't something really too foreign for us. We already know that our imagination has powers in Jannah. In Jannah, if there are fruits on the trees, we just have to imagine that we want to get it, and the trees by themselves will lower their branches and come and say, here you go. You're going to have to go and ask for, hey, someone get a ladder that looks really high. No. Here you go. So our imagination also has power over them. So now think to yourselves, brothers and sisters, is this the kind of food that you want where even the trees and the meat, all of whatever there is in Jannah obeys your imagination? Or do you just want 2 meals a day in the a'rāf? Who even knows what kind of quality of food it is? Maybe it's biryani, maybe it's... I know over here in the tabarruk, people are trying to swap each other's tabarruk, right? Some tabarruk tastes nice, some tabarruk tastes not so nice, right? What if you get the tabarruk that's not so nice in the a'rāf? Right? Here it's dunya, you can always go back to mama's cooking. Over there, what is there for mama to cook? It's whatever Allah gives morning and evening. So now, if this is what the power of our words has, as well as the power of our imagination, then I have a question. And this is really, really interesting. If my thoughts have the power to go and just change and manifest and generate whatever I want in Jannah, we know that there are different levels of Jannah, and many people think that, okay, yeah, there's just 7 levels of Jannah. The 7th level of Jannah is Jannah al-Firdaus, yes? But we also have a hadith where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the hafiz of the Quran, the person who memorizes the entirety of the Quran from Fatiha to Nas, says to him, keep on reciting and keep on elevating your darajat in paradise. How many verses are there in the Quran, brothers and sisters? 6,236. So we know at least in Jannah there's going to be 6,236 levels. At least. But then, I already know that Rasulullah is going to get the highest, reward that there ever can be in paradise. Imam Ali alayhi salam after him, the 12 Imams, Fatima al-Zahra, those people like Salman, Abu Dhar, okay. And then, inshallah, somewhere in there, somewhere in that taxonomy, somewhere in there, I'm over there, hopefully closer to Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, right? Not all the way at the bottom. What's to stop me if imagination is this powerful and my words can generate paradises? What's to stop me from just asking Allah, hey Allah, can I just have what Rasulullah has? Me, some peasant, some plebeian, right, in Shakespearean terms, this peasant in Jannah, what's to stop me from asking for the same thing that the King of Kings, Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, has in Jannah? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What's to stop me? Here, we come back to our first night. Do you remember in our first night we mentioned that this world is the realm of potentialities and that akhirah is the realm of actualities? Here, you can keep on working, and try to get more and more rewards in paradise. But once you're over there, as Imam Ali alayhi salam said, over there there's only reward and no action. Here there's action and there's no reward. So, based on how well I did my wajibat, how well I acted towards Allah, I did everything that He wanted me to do, I went and had the correct belief system. Based on that, that's where I permanently will be in Jannah. In Jannah, if all you wanted in this world was to be able to go and hang out with your friends, or you just wanted somewhere to just be able to go and read books, or you just wanted somewhere where you could, I don't know, remember we said that whoever became scared of the position of his master, Allah, he gets 2 Jannahs. We said that Jannah is from Ardh to Samawat. Allah creates another existence for you. You can cater that existence however you like. You can have a whole entire existence to be Dragon Ball Z if you want. You can be Pokemon, you can be Call of Duty. You can have just a whole entire universe where everything and everyone is, I don't know, for maybe some of our younger sisters, Barbie, right? Barbie's in theaters right now, right? Don't go and watch it, not in the sad days, right? Wait. Barbie, yeah, you can go and make a whole entire world out of it. G.I. Joe, you know, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't know, I'm really old, right? Don't let this date me. All of these things, you can go and make a whole entire universe out of them. Yeah, but if that's all that your thinking went to, that's all you'll ever have. You'll never be able to elevate past those veils where you can have more. For those people who just wanted alcohol, for those people who just wanted a spouse, all they fixated, their entire vision of Jannah was just that. That's all they'll ever be able to experience. But those people who, like Rasulullah and his family, the Ahlul Bayt, who knew that there was so much more even beyond Jannah, where you can go and start to have the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they wanted to go into that realm of the divine names, to go and have even more closeness to Allah, to have more knowledge about Allah. That kind of pleasure is something that no thing, no gift, no materialistic thing in Jannah can ever replace or come in near of. Those kinds of things in Jannah, that's what we want to work forward towards. All these smaller things, it's not like they get lost in the higher levels of Jannah, but do you really want your eternity to be one of regret, where you'll never experience those higher things? Coming back to the a'rāf, do you want your whole entire eternity to be regret, where you were so close, if you just paid attention a little bit more in religion, where you could have made it into Jannah, you're like, now you'll never will? No. And so here, brothers and sisters, imagination is capped with each and every single veil. Your capacity of imagination is capped with each different level of Jannah. We already know that there's a minimum of 6,236 levels. Each one of those is a upper limit of our imagination, depending if that's where we stopped. Meaning, each and every single thing that I ask for, I can ask for exactly the same thing that Rasulullah has. I can have the same looking palace, I can have the same decor, I can have the same number of servants. That's all fine. But will I be able to enjoy it the same way that Rasulullah does? No. And here I want to bring you to another hadith. The hadith says that each of the Ulul Azam prophets, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, on one specific day of the week. Now don't ask me how days of the week work in Jannah. I don't know how time works in Jannah, okay? I haven't been there. I'm so alive if you can't tell me, right? But each one of those days of the week, one of the Ulul Azam prophets will host everybody in Jannah. And you will be their guest. And you will come and eat from their food. Every Thursday, Rasulullah ﷺ will be the host, and you will come and be guests of Rasulullah ﷺ. And on Friday, Allah will host everybody in Jannah. And when He hosts everybody, there's one of 2 gifts that He gives every single Friday, according to Imam Salih. What are those 2 gifts that we can have every single Friday for eternity? Number 1 is ma'rifah of Allah, which we already said is the highest gift that you can ever get. You get a piece more of the ma'rifah of Allah, so you can start to understand Allah Himself more. But number 2 is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invents a new sense for you. If I were to ask our young brothers and sisters, how many senses do we have? Everybody will be able to go and answer 5. But what are those 5 senses, brothers and sisters? I'm not asking the older ones. What are the, I want to hear from the young ones. What are those 5 senses, brothers and sisters? 5 senses? It's not that hard, come on. Eyes, ears, taste, okay? Smell, touch, right? So touch, sight, smell, hearing, and I forgot one more already. Taste, right? If that's all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invented for us to experience this world with in dunya, let's use this by analogy to understand Jannah. Here in this world, is the quality of life the same for someone who is blind as someone who is seeing? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself asked, are the blind and the seeing equal? No, they're not. They're not equal. Take someone who sees, but he can't see color. We call it color blindness, right? Is that quality of life the same? Or the person who can see with color? Of course, the one who can see with color. Now imagine this. You enter into Jannah, it's week 1. You have sight. You don't have any of the other 4 senses, but you don't even have color. You can see everything in Jannah, you just don't have color. Come the day of Friday, and Allah gives you color as well. Now, everything in Jannah that you saw, it's the same things, but you can have more appreciation for it. Because now everything is in color. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, try watching a black and white movie and then watch the same thing in color. Oh my God, what a difference. The quality of life becomes a difference. That's just one sight. That's just one sense. Then on top of that, imagine this poor person who only has one sense so far. He goes and sees a barbecue. Maybe he even sees Tex-Mex, right? You guys over here are very big fans of Tex-Mex, right? Okay. He goes and sees that barbecue happening. You can only see it, you can't smell it. The next Friday comes, he's able to smell it. Oh my God, what an amazing smell some of these barbecues are. He starts smelling those barbecues in Jannah. Or maybe some of you guys don't like barbecues, fine, right? I don't know. Fancy 18th century, like, you know, hoity-toity, pinkies raised type of tea party, I don't know. Whatever floats your boat, smell is now introduced. The next Friday, taste is introduced. Now we know that smell and taste are related, but taste enhances everything, doesn't it? Especially for when we get a cold or something and we can't taste anything. We're like, man, and we just came out of COVID. And if your taste buds were affected, and some of your favorite foods, you're like crying, I'll never be able to taste it again. Right? When we receive that taste sense, and then we receive hearing, and then we receive touch, and we finally get to all of these different senses, what about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Does he only know 5 senses, or was it his imagination that cooked up 5 senses for us in the first place? Meaning, for the rest of eternity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep on bestowing upon us either ma'rifah of Allah or a new sense. And with each new sense, you come back to your Jannah and everything seems new. The same exact things that you were, tinkering around with, or experimenting with, or enjoying, or talking about, now you have a new sense downloaded. And you can experience everything anew for the rest of eternity. But what's the difference then between you and Rasulullah? Rasulullah already starts with a head start of plus 500 trillion, let's say. You start at level 0. Your addition is plus 1 every single Friday. His is plus 500 trillion every single Friday. Will you ever catch up with Rasulullah? You have eternity. Maybe you'll be one day where he once was. But will you ever be able to enjoy everything the same way Rasulullah ever did? No. So therefore, try to go and follow his footsteps more and more in your day-to-day life right now while you have life. The closer that you get, remember we said about the weights, the more that you have in common with him, the higher your deeds will take you in Jannah. All of it is riding on how you decide to act right now. So if you see something right now that you can fix it. Make your quote-unquote New Year's resolutions with Abdullah and say, today is the day that I restart my life. I'm not going to do this haram thing anymore. I'm going to be your servant and I'm going to keep on doing whatever is going to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy. And finally, brothers and sisters, I want to quickly touch on a very interesting hadith that Imam Salih alayhi salam mentioned, where he says that, and this is something that, remember when we said about muraqabah and muhasabah every single day, go and review what you could have done wrong that could have been done better. Muraqabah, what could you have actually done better? What's something new that you could have improved on yourself? Even if you're just 1% better every single day, calculate that out. You're about 37% better every single year. The next time that you meet your friends, even if you meet them after a single year, they'll notice such a difference in you. And compound that year and year over time. By the time you get to Jannah, you're a changed person. All you have to do is just 1% every single day. Is that too much to ask? For a Jannah that I can't even describe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the words in the Quran, He even says, everything that I described in Jannah, all this is just nuzul. Nuzul is when you come to someone's house and they just go and put those little tea and biscuits in front of you and they're like, here's some chai, pani, whatever, right? Biscuit, shishkit, right? This level of hors d'oeuvres, this is all that's mentioned in the Quran. That's all that the paradise level has been mentioned in the Quran. Meaning what's still left, the imagination can't even begin to comprehend. And here, I want to bring your attention to what the imagination can comprehend. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, recite the loudest salawat for Imam Sadiq. Tafsir al-Qummi, he has a very interesting hadith, where he says that every single deed has been given a reward, except for Salat al-Layl. Salat al-Layl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that one's reward is on me. I'm going to create a special layer in paradise just for the people who kept up Salat al-Layl. Salat al-Layl, brothers and sisters, I'd like to have you think about it from now on in this way. How many of you have talked with a Christian or a Jew or a Hindu or an atheist, maybe at work or at school or a friend, right? And when they come and ask you, whoa, you pray 5 times a day? How do you pray 5 times a day? And you're like, I don't know, it's easy. For someone who only goes to church once a week, or only goes to synagogue once a week, or only goes to mandir once a week, praying 5 times a day is unbelievable. It's so hard. But for those of us who pray 5 times a day, it's not that hard. So now I ask you, if 5 times a day is not hard, why is 6 times a day hard? Start to introduce slowly into your routine, into your schedule, Salat al-Layl. If you're not going to recite all 11 rak'ahs, recite 9. If you're not going to recite all 9, recite 7. If you're not going to recite all 7, recite 5. If not 5, at least the shafaq and the watr. The 2 shafaq and the watr. Even if not just that, Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam says, my true Shīʿā are the ones who never leave the witr. That 1 rak'ah, whatever you do, just try to at least pray that witr. And it's in most of our apps, how to go and pray Salat al-Tahajjud, Namaz al-Shab, right? That Salat al-Layl. Try to go and incorporate that, because there is a special level of Jannah that is only reserved for those people who pray Salat al-Layl. Salat al-Layl, brothers and sisters, gives you the benefits of dunya, gives you the benefits of barzakh, gives you the benefits of akhirah. And how easy is it? You can just go and pray it after your Salat al-Isha. You can go and pray it sitting. You can pray it lying down. You can pray it, you can pray it if you're laying down kind of towards the qibla. You don't even have to worry that much about it, right? Go and find out how to go and do Salat al-Layl and just, start doing that. Of course, Salat al-Layl, does it have any effects if you aren't doing your Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha? No, you have to go and start becoming regular with that. But after that, go and start doing Salat al-Layl. Salat al-Layl, brothers and sisters, has unbelievable rewards. If we wanted to, we could make a whole entire lecture series just about the rewards of Salat al-Layl. But we're coming to an end of just this series about our ma'ad, about what happens after death. And so I want to finish up with a question that was asked in preparation of these lectures, and I know this is a sensitive topic, especially for some of our sisters, that what happens to maybe a baby who was miscarried, or maybe a baby that was stillborn, Or maybe a child who we lost too early. Maybe a child who did not make it all the way to their bulugh. That child was not even tested. What happens to such a child? Those children, brothers and sisters, in the barzakh, we know from our hadith, they are taken care of by Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayhi. They are in the care of Fatima Zahra. Fatima Zahra plays with them, keeps them happy, and nourishes them, and watches over them until they reach paradise. Some of these children, especially if they're shaheed, like the baby that we commemorating tonight, they will of course go to Jannah. Others who maybe did not receive that test and they died a little bit too early, they will go to the a'rāf, where Allah Ta'ala will keep them happy. There will be breezes of Jannah coming in. They will receive their rizq twice a day. They will not have anything to worry about. They will be happy. But for sure, those kinds of babies, like the baby of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Ali al-Asghar, where our reports mention that his mother, Rabah, was starting to get thirsty. And this baby, this poor young baby, Ali al-Asghar, known to other communities as that tifl, Abdullah al-Radi', Salam Allah. That poor baby, Imam Hussein alayhi salam comes in front of the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he starts reciting the following words. He says, if there is something that you feel that we adults have committed as a crime, then what is the crime of my baby? Many of the poets will even cite the verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَا ذَنْبُ هَذَا الطِّفْلِ. Right? Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what was the sin of such a baby girl? Why was she killed? And similarly, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will be the accuser that day and asking the criminals that day that what was the crime of this young grandson of mine, Ali al-Asghar. This young infant was so thirsty that Sayyidah Zainab comes to Imam Hussein alayhi salam as he is bidding farewell. Remember, there are no more companions left. There are no more family members left. Sayyidah Zainab comes and says this young baby has become so agitated that he has started to flap his arms like a bird, and I saw him out of his manger, out of his cradle, that he went and flapped so hard and it rocked so hard, he ejected himself out, and he was now on the hot sand of Karbala, and he was even more troubled. Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, bring that baby towards me. Yes, what was the sin that this young girl was killed? But what was exactly the sin that this baby was killed? Was it the sin that his father was Hussein? Was it the sin that his grandfather was Ali? Was it the sin that his grandmother was Fatima Zahra? Or was it the sin that his great-grandfather was Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? But on the other side, they still claim to believe Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. But what's the value of such kalimatain when you can't even recognize that Rasulullah has asked for kindness, mawaddata fil qurba, towards these family members? If you see a sin, even in Imam Hussein, the most blameless of all human beings, then ma dhanbu tifli, what is the sin of this young boy? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam comes in front of the enemies of Allah and he starts saying, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرُنَا هَلْ مِن مُعِينٍ يُعِينُنَا وَهَلْ مِن مُغِيثٍ يُغِيثُنَا. Is there anyone from amongst humankind that can come and help us? Is there anyone who can help that one who needs help? Is there anyone who can help this oppressed person on the plains of Karbala. Imam Hussein alayhi salam now starts looking in these final moments towards his companions, and he starts calling out, Zuhair, Burair, Habib, what is wrong with you when I call you that you do not answer me? Or is it that you cannot answer me because your heads have been separated from your bodies? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is completely alone. Even his most trustworthy and loyal of supporters of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas has no right hand, no left hand. He has an arrow in his eye and a spear in his back. Now from amongst the people who set out to go and fight with Imam al-Hussein, there is no one left on the plains of Karbala. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he said, Al-an inkasara dhahri. After the death of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, now I feel as if my back is broken. Oh, Abu Abdullah, then what was your state after seeing the state of your infant baby? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam asked Zainab, bring that baby towards me. He comes in front of the enemies of Allah and he says, take him into your camps, feed him, give him some water, and inshallah go and bring him back towards me. Just take care of him a little bit, that way he does not suffer from the heat of Karbala and the thirst which he needs quenched. Amongst the enemies of Allah, Umar ibn Sa'ad sees that there is debate, and in this debate there are some who say, go and quench the water of this baby. Amongst the others they are saying, no, if you quench the baby's thirst, then the people will start to wake up. Umar ibn Sa'ad says to Harmala, cut off the debate of the people. Harmala says, what do you want me to do? He says, kill the baby. Harmala then narrates to Mukhtar in his own final moments that when that moment came and I had to go and use one of my three-headed arrows, that I used to go and slaughter the thick necks of the camels, I was having my arrow on the bow, ready to go and shoot it at the 6-month-old baby. I just needed the swaddling cloth of the baby to be moved by the wind so that I would have a clear shot. As soon as the wind exposed the neck of that young baby, he says to Mukhtar, I have never seen a white neck so pure and so soft. But eventually I had to go and follow the enemy, the leader, Umar ibn Sa'ad's command, and I went and released my arrow, and of course my arrow hit its mark. I could not believe what I had done, and this young baby was hit in the throat. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was cradling the baby, and this exact same arrow went through from one side of the neck of the baby, through the other side of the neck, and it completely split the neck of this baby, and it hit the bicep of Imam al-Hussein, and it started to make Imam al-Hussein bleed. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam started to cup the blood of this young infant underneath him, and as soon as the cup of the hand of blood would start to get filled, he would go and throw it up towards the sama, and he would say, رِضًا بِقَضَاءً وَتَصْلِيمًا لِأَمْرِي. If this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, then I am happy with whatever Allah wants, and I have submitted to whatever the command of Allah is. Not a single drop of blood came back down. It was all collected by Rasulullah, but now Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam has to go and tell the mother. Now he comes towards the tent, and he decides to just dig a small grave behind the tent of Rabah, and he goes and buries the baby in that small grave. He goes and tells the mother Rabah that this is what happened to our baby. But unfortunately, brothers and sisters, we know the final resting place of that baby. He is on the chest of Imam Hussein in the same body where Imam Hussein is buried next to Ali al-Akbar. How did he get there? Unfortunately, the tragedy of this infant baby does not end here. After Imam Hussein had been killed and all of the women had been rounded up and ready to go and be marched, the commander of this army, Umar ibn Sa'd, says, I have all of the heads except for one. There's one more head that Yazid, la'natullahi alayh, wants. They went and named every single person. They said, we have Hussein. They said, we have Abbas. We have Qasim. We have Ali al-Akbar. Zuhair, we have him. Muslim ibn Awsaja, we have him. We have Qurair. We have Wahab. Who is missing? Until finally, Harmala, his consciousness could not handle it. He said, is it that infant that I killed? He said, yes. He said, go towards one of the soldiers of Imam Hussein. Go with the spear. Go trying in these tents. Go and start stabbing into the sand and see if you can find a body. Finally, they found the body and they decapitated this young baby. And they took this head and they put it on the spears of Banu Umayyah. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. Raise your hands, brothers and sisters, in the dua. Tears on these kinds of nights, brothers and sisters, you don't know what kind of power they have. Remember all of your hajat. Remember all of your mareed who are in the hospitals, who are sick. Remember all of your marhumeen. Remember all of your dunya and akhirah needs, and recite with me the blessed ayah of the Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mudtarra idha da'a. Together, loudly, loudly. لقضاء الحوائج أما يجيب لشفاء المرضى أما يجيب لتعجيل الفرج أما يجيب اللهم إنا ندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأكرم 10 times all together for all of your حوائج يا مؤمنين. يا الله 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 يا إلهي بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها اكشف عنا السوء يا الله. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا كفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار مع محمد وآله الأطهار. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن. Together, loudly. في هذه Louder. This is the night of Ali al-Asghar. ودليلا حتى تسكنه أرضك وتمتعه فيها برحمتك يا